So next, as a part of this presentation, you are going to hear an amazing story, an amazing project that has grown to life because of this empathy gathering, because we have a vice principal who is out there listening and learning intensely and intently. I want to pass this presentation to an amazing gentleman, an amazing vice principal, and a general all-around fantastic human being, Jamal Hicks.
Oh, thank you very much, Amberly. Thank you very much. A little bit of background about the grant. In partnership with Sac Republic and from the guidance of Kate Hazarian, a grant was awarded for Micron. The purpose of this grant was to close gaps from our underserved students. The initial team met and they discussed what is the best way we can use the money to support our students. You guys guessed it, we just want to buy more Chromebooks, more hotspots, more headsets. However, the team decided to empathy gather with their families so that we can identify the best needs for the grant. From the collaboration, we found that voices were missing. When those voices were finally amplified, the idea of the grant went a completely different direction. Nina Mancina worked with myself years ago back in the day at Jonas Salk, and we worked together on a previous project called W.E.S.T. She reached out to me and said, Jamal, what do you think? I said, one last time? She replied, one last time. Now, buckle up. You can cuddle up. You guys can even zoom up and see what happens when you include community voice in a leadership team that is committed to serving all its stakeholders. Ladies and gentlemen, hold on. Keep your minds open. Next slide, please. W.E.S.T. W.E.S.T. in support in technology. The purpose of W.E.S.T., and I'm sharing a thought that I came across in a collaborative meeting, a W.E.S.T. meeting that I attended. I just want to just kind of speak personal just for a second, but we really need to get away from focusing on the negative labels we attach to learning. I can't count the number of times I would personally cringe when the topic of the achievement gap came up, because I knew deep down inside we were talking about our brown and Black students. So Melissa, please don't get too mad. I'm not gonna have you erase anything, but the purpose of W.E.S.T. is to accelerate learning by supporting our families academically and technologically with equipment, trainings, and tools to excel in distance learning and beyond. Next slide, please. Here's a little video that would give you just a little taste of what W.E.S.T. is about. Whew, that was nice. Next slide, please. So before I get started, I wanted to thank you for allowing my voice to be heard in this platform. I wanted to add that I'm in awe of our families, our students, our teachers, our leadership, because we're all doing a brand new job that nobody has ever done before. And there's some discomfort, yet we do it for our students. W.E.S.T. will provide technical support and make our equipment more accessible to our families. Perhaps we can even really accelerate our students' learning. Additionally, language and transportation is a huge barrier in the west end of our district. So let's pause. Let's look at this from the lens of some of our families. One, you have challenges in English, and your access to transportation at times is not consistent. Oh, and you need to get your first grader to upload a photo to a teacher's Google Classroom. Wait a minute. If your first grader don't upload the photo, you're marked absent. And a potential phone call is coming from the principal. Oh, wait a minute, sorry, my bad. That little flash, sorry about that, you guys. Let me stop before I really make a phone call right now to a family. Let me breathe. So additionally, we want to build a sense of pride from our community. The families from the West are dope. I mean, wait, did I just say that? Let me say that again. Our families are incredible. When you know and you believe you are something, you act accordingly. Our students from the West End matter. This is the sentiment that we want to grow. This is the perfect time in which we can invest in our currency. Our currency is our students, and the focus of WEST is to shine the light on that notion, our currency. Next slide, please. So here at the site, here at the school, here are the school sites that will get focused WEST services. We want to start small, have a strong foundation, and create a system in which we could expand. Next slide, please. These are the sites that will have access to the walk-in lab. They can make an appointment where they can get one-on-one support with a tech expert in their own language. Next slide, please. So kind of just to summarize how WEST is going to serve our community. 1, we'll have a walk-in support lab. 2, we'll have some phone support for questions and concerns about distance learning and our families' languages. 3, we'll have a mobile unit that will make scheduled stops throughout the community. 4, there'll be a web-based remote learning engagement hub that will be accessible through the San Juan portal. And lastly, and my favorite, is the mobile app. Next slide, please. We have a variety of people who have gotten together to make this happen. I wanted to give a special shout out to our coordinator, Clarissa Alva, our valuable FACE employee, Big Dog Anthony Brooks and Leslie Leatherwood, and Keel Leatherwood, our Thomas Edison support staff, and our currency, of course, our students. There's a list of our students right there, and I just want to highlight that the students will be providing support in these languages. Next slide, please. Let's focus on exactly what WEST will look like. Our walk-in hub will be open Tuesdays through Thursdays from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. It'll be staffed by FACE employees, staff members from Edison, and our bilingual high school volunteers. Yes, we're putting our students to work. The mobile unit will be available Tuesdays through Thursdays from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. The unit will be staffed by the WEST director and a school community worker. The mobile app is in development. The reason why is we're trying to be like Amazon 2.0. I mean, I was just really kind of just thinking about it and fantasizing about it. And I would love for a family to be able to request their items. You know, I need a hotspot, Chromebook, put in this parking slot that they're in, and then we can just bring the items out to them. You guys want to talk about curb service? Next slide, please. So the web-based distance learning hub or remote engagement hub will answer the questions that appeared in our empathy gathering. Our families told us loud and clear that they needed one location to virtually house information about tools for them to reduce the confusion and the frustration. They additionally stated that they wanted a way to contact or to reach out to the school during off hours. Next slide, please. So this hub will provide students and families with attended groups, student schedules, Zoom information, Google Classroom access. Families, teachers, students, and other staff can access resources and support by filling out the WEST support ticket. Next slide, please. Again, we just wanted to thank our generous donors for making the WEST possible for our students and families. This is WEST in support in technology. Next slide, please. The data that we derive from WEST will show that we are making a positive impact on student learning and growth. Additionally, data will help us serve our community by defining their social and emotional needs. Next slide, please. This program is just like a springboard for opportunities in which we can connect with partners throughout the district and community. An example of our work through the WEST program is through the partnership we already formed. Let me introduce you to Mr. Daryl Jenkins. Next slide, please.
Hello, this is Daryl Jenkins, past president of 100 Black Men, current board member. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Just wanted to thank Mr. Hicks for coming back our way. We have been a partner with Mr. Hicks when he was at Jonas Salt, and some of you may remember the 100 Black Men put on an annual African American male conference. Now we call it the youth conference because we include everyone. And what we did there was he helped us, and this was some years ago, to introduce technologies to young people. And I'll quickly go through what happened. We used to have young men come through and, come to a session and put their arms together, put their heads down, and try to just ignore it until it was time to go. And then Mr. Hicks's program opened up their eyes until we couldn't get them to leave the room. So it excited me to work with him, and we plan to do more of that in a partnership, working with the 100 Black Men and doing our mentoring program. For those of you who do not know who the 100 Black Men are, we are a 35-year-old organization. We're connected with 100 Black Men of America, which is a national and international mentoring program. We've won many awards and worked with lots of national people. Our chapter, the Sacramento chapter, had won the Mentoring Chapter of the Year award back when I was president of the organization. Let me give you some insights on what our plans are and what we're doing now in current schools. We're doing Lego robotics programs. If you've been to a Legos competition, we had young people that had never been exposed to technology, planning, programming, and actually were the first ones at this program a year ago to make the robot get a ball and then throw it into a basket. We were so excited. It was incredible. And these young people have gone on to do great things. We're also now involved with a drone programming, developing operational and development. So we're doing drones in our program. So this will track to the career opportunities for young people in the future. And that's one of the things that we do mostly in our mentoring is try to do career pathing so that, education tracks with careers so that there is a vision of what you're going to be doing when you get out of school and the reason why you go to school. The purposes of developing a pattern and a lifestyle and a career for yourself to support your families. The other thing that we like to talk about is scholarships. We work with scholarships and develop scholarship programs and work with scholarship organizations so that young people can get a scholarship by the time they graduate from high school and move into a college of their choice. We want to also talk about quickly, supporting independent development and individual engagement. That is probably the most critical thing that we see the young people lack, is that they have no desire to know why they live and exist. The challenge for young people now is that there's no vision or dream of what the future is. We try to give them a relative dream that is about what's happening in our society today. I mean, pick out something. There's all kinds of things that these young people come up with, but can they make money out of it? Can they build a career? Can they build a company? And can they use it to enhance the life of other people and people in the society? Let's see. The last thing I'd like to talk about is the support of the people that we have. We have judges, lawyers, and people who are in blue-collar jobs, who are all volunteers who come in and work with the young people. We do it 2 Saturdays a month, and we do it at a location, and we provide lunches, and we provide the opportunity for the young people to express themselves, to find what it is that they do, that they're good at, as well as how do they implement that and grow. They shock us most of the time because they're good at so many different things, but nobody asks them. We ask them to do a project, and somebody says, I can draw that, I can build that. And then they find themselves being involved in things that they learn and says, well, how can I find out? Your school has these opportunities. And they seem to, they don't ask anybody. So it will relate with, I think there was a gentleman by the name, I don't know his first name, Rick, that talked about all of the things that his survey identified that the youth do not have. And those are the types of things that we love to know and then work with the youth and the parents and the guardians and the grandparents to figure out how we stimulate these young people and keep them away from drugs and gangs. So we work with the police. The police chief is a good friend of mine. He's a 100 black man, used to be a 100 black men before he became police chief. So I will leave you with that. There's more I could say, but I think that's enough to get you started in thinking about, we believe that what they see is what they'll be. Thank you very much, Daryl Jenkins.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. So you guys can just feel my excitement. I mean, hopefully you really, really can know. And I'm just very fortunate to be in this opportunity right now. As you can see, some of the other programs that actually accompany the 100 Black Men. And so this is all really just started from just West and just really where we want to go. So I want to close with this. And I shared, and Ken and I were talking about this. I just really feel right now we're planting and watering the seed of something that could be really one of the greatest gifts from COVID. Don't tell anybody that, but really, this could be one of the greatest gifts of COVID. That gift being where school sites and communities are working together as one for one sole purpose, our students. I do have to close with this just because that's just me. I just have to be true to myself. And I just really do have to say, just with Mr. Jenkins, I really do feel we can't improve as a district until we start addressing the needs and concerns of our African-American students and families. With that, I close. I just want to thank you for this time this evening. We would like now to open up to the board for questions you might have.
Thank you very much to the team for the presentation. At this time, I will turn it over to my colleagues for any questions or comments. Mr. Hernandez?
Just a quick comment. I appreciate the report, and more than anything, I appreciate the honesty in the report and the outreach to focus on the need. I mean, I really appreciate that. And I appreciate the video from the WEST program. It got me very excited to hear Mr. Hicks and to hear what we're trying to accomplish in these areas to help these students in the WEST program. And so more than anything, just a comment of appreciation. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. Ms. Costa?
I had the pleasure of hearing this report at Curriculum and Standards a week ago, and the parents had so many questions. We did not hear the WEST portion of the presentation, and I hope that'll come back to Curriculum and Standards because it is so exciting. Thank you to Mr. Hicks and to Mr. Jenkins. I think this is addressing the equity issue that we have talked about so often. I got so energized after Curriculum and Standards. I made phone calls. I had attended the 2 SPAC meetings, so I had heard parents talking and heard the student voice through this report. And I wondered what principals would say. So the next day after Curriculum and Standards, I called 5 elementary principals and asked the same questions that the kids were asked. To a person, the concern was about attendance and making sure every student was there. And they talked about the ways that they were encouraging students to attend, the phone calls, the texts, sending people out to families' homes. That included the teachers going out, it included our MTSS staff going out, the principals going out. The thing that they were most proud of is the way their certificated and classified staffs were working on behalf of the kids. And they talked about going the extra mile to make sure that students are not falling through the cracks and that they too, when a student is not attending, are very, very concerned and trying to find other ways to reach out. They talked about the materials pickup, and just as the students and the parents talked about how positive that was, the principal said it's something that everyone looks forward to. I don't think there is a person in San Juan who doesn't want to come back because we miss the connections. I realized how much I missed connecting with principals and talking with them. And I think the report went above and beyond to help us understand what is happening. I really want to thank every one of the staff for putting it together.
Thank you, Ms. Costa. Ms. Creason?
Thanks for the report. There was a whole lot in there and I have quite a few notes, so bear with me. I'll try to run through them in a timely manner. I know it's getting late. First, I want to refer back to Mr. Avy's question. I'm pretty sure we probably can't answer those questions right now on the spot about the performance measures, how we're measuring up with other districts. I'm wondering, does that data exist somewhere that we can get it at a later date?
It does, and I'll go ahead and actually, staff can jump in too, but it does, and we actually get fairly regular updates from the dashboard, and there'll likely be one coming this spring. But the answer is yes, it's publicly available data.
Okay, and so I think that Mr. Avy, if you'd like to reach out via email, we could send you that link or tell you how to get that information, or for anyone else that's looking for that information. I'm happy to post it on my social media pages too, so folks can quickly get to it. I'm going to first run through some more public comments that I heard, and then I'll get to my other comment. Just want to a shout out to the person that had talked a little bit about their kid or kids that are around them in accelerated programming, and that they're worried about what this means for next year. And I just want to let you know, it's a struggle we're dealing with at my house too. My son was able to get into IM1 in 8th grade. Don't know he's going to pass that class. So I just wanted to share that. It's a very real struggle. I'm not capable of helping him with his homework, and I have an MBA. And so it's challenging. And I do want to also recognize, someone had mentioned tutoring, and is that really an A? And I mean, my perspective is, yeah, sure. I mean, tutors happen whether we're in person or not. And if the kid got an A, they got an A. But what worries me more in that situation is all the kids that can't afford it, right? The inequity that's caused, the inequity there, everyone that can't get to a tutor for whatever reason, that's problematic. So I hear that. I also want to address another comment I heard is unions are the reason why we're not in school. I think for those of you that were on the call earlier today, I'm just going to have to repeat it just in case folks didn't hear it. I'm all about the science, and I'm all about the state guidelines. I think I understand hearing from public comment tonight that maybe folks don't think that we should follow state guidance, but that's a completely different conversation. That's the box we're in, and I think it is important for a variety of reasons that I'm happy to talk about offline. But until 12 o'clock today, and staff, others, correct me if I'm wrong, until noon today, we could not reopen, and that was not the union's fault. Now, where we go from here is, something we need to talk out, and I hope that we can revisit the agreement, and I have comments about that in a minute. So I want to say I really enjoyed Mr. Hicks' presentation. It's just wonderful to see you. It's been a long time. I really enjoyed my time with you at Edison. I even got a text from a friend that's watching, just really enjoyed your presentation and your energy and everything that you're doing. And just thank you. It's wonderful to see you. Regarding attendance, I'm wondering if we could go back to that a little bit and just dive a little bit deeper into what adjustments were made to, like, what do we do for attendance? Because I know that we had to, it's not the same as a kid just showing up to school. So what are our measures for, a kid receiving credit for being in class? I know we touched on it, but if we could talk more about it and maybe a little bit about the rationale as to why it's not necessarily you're in the Zoom the entire time, etc.
So it includes any kind of combination in terms of participation in the synchronous or in the asynchronous. It can also include teacher contact with the home. And this is all per legislation. So that's how those metrics were identified to help us account for attendance.
Thank you for sharing that. So the rationale really is we're following state legislation on how we have to account attendance based on this reality. And I heard someone mention, and I actually got a couple of calls about this, that there is a concern that maybe guidelines aren't being followed. I would say two things. I would say, if you're seeing a problem, please come to us with specifics so we can look into it, because maybe someone's confused and just needs some guidance. But if we, it's a big district with 60 plus schools and lots of teachers and lots of classes. So if we don't know specifically where there may be a problem, we can't do much about it. So if you specifically think the guidelines that have been set in place by legislation are being violated or misunderstood, really would like to hear that. But again, we need specifics to address it. I want to say that I really appreciated the good and the bad comments. I shouldn't say good and bad, but the challenges and the successes in the student presentation. I know it's hard. It's hard to hear, especially when we're working with our kids, and we of course want to always put our best foot forward, so I think it does take a lot of courage to really tell the whole story. And I think throughout this process we've done that really well. I don't know that we've put rose lenses on everything, so I just want to call out that I really appreciated both lenses, because we do need to hear it. We all need to hear it. Super concerned, I know we all are really concerned about, of course, the learning loss in general. Really concerned about the disparity and inequity in what we're seeing in the declines. Wondering if somebody can touch a little bit on, will there, and I know this is being worked out, I don't know if there's a lot we could share today or not, but I know we're talking about learning loss specifically. How are we going to address that? What are we going to do to help kids catch up? And so I guess, can someone share a little bit of what that's going to look like, or where those conversations are going? And will kids have grace to catch up next year? Yeah.
There are a lot of pieces that are in play right now. And so specifically, so our high school team is looking at a variety of strategies. We've had opportunities for intercession and boot camps right now for students to either credit recovery and as well as catching up. We're looking at possibly opening up something that's called, they're calling it a twilight program, which will provide additional opportunities in the evenings for students to catch up. Summer learning is going to be an opportunity for us to really focus on the credit recovery, but also add in opportunities for enrichment and potential acceleration. So that's another point of opportunity for us. And that we'll see that throughout our K-12 system. It's our intention to work in partnership and be as creative as possible, really leveraging high interest for students and their voice, as well as from our community in order of shaping that as well. Some other pieces that we are considering are the potential for the modification of graduation requirements for a particular cohort that may be adversely affected right now. So that is also in the works. So there's a lot of different strategies that we're looking at to address some of what you talked about.
Thank you for that. And do we have a timeline on when we're going to be sharing this? When we're going to be ready to share this with families, so folks know what they can access and how to access?
Probably it's going to take us about in the next few, like 4 to 6 weeks, I would say. We have a meeting tomorrow, one of the first of many. We've had staff that have been working on strategies to address learning in the summer. But we have a more formalized meeting happening tomorrow to help propel us in our planning for that.
Thank you. I want to call out that although, of course, we need to be focused on reopening and getting kids back on campus, I am really happy that we are still spending time to make distance learning the best it can be, because that is the bucket we have been in. And we are committed to ensuring that families have a choice if they want to continue with distance learning after we reopen. So I want to call out that I'm just really happy that we are still doing the work to deliver the best product we can and best education we can in that model. So we continue to offer choice, because we have both sides of the coin. There's people that are not ready to go back for a variety of reasons. So I appreciate that. So you guys are going to love this one. Really, a lot of what we heard today, from the videos and from the statistics, is reopening would really help a lot of this, help with the connections, help with a whole lot. And we were able to talk a little bit about that earlier today, but I'm just, now that I've had a little time to think it through, I'm just wondering, I know that we have to go and make new agreements and have new conversations, which have already started with SJTA and our other bargaining groups. But I'm wondering, as a board, is there anything that we can do today to shorten the process on our end? I would hate for an agreement to be made tomorrow and it has to wait for us to convene again in whatever time frame, or in 2 weeks. Is there anything or any action we can take today so that we have put our stamp of approval on reopening with, and then you guys can just bless the next step? Is there anything we could do today in that way, in action?
I'll take, I don't think there is, because I don't think the board can take action on something that's not really formally agendized. And there are a lot of aspects even to demand to bargain that go into effect, and that's all part of the process. I also know that once we would get to an agreement, we will actually have to submit what our plans are based on that agreement to the county, and then they will have a week to actually respond to us. So if people think that we're going to be able to turn around immediately and see a change, that's unrealistic. And I just want to be really honest with folks. So there are steps that we need to go through. And so I don't really believe there's any action the board could take tonight that would expedite anything.
Okay, thank you. I think that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Creason. Dr. McKibben.
Okay, I'll try to do this as quickly as I can. I have about six quick questions, I hope. The first one is on slide 25, talked about Care Solace, and I believe was mentioned a couple of other places. Will information related to Care Solace and the results of it, the numbers and that sort of thing, be in the agenda item that I believe, Mr.
Yes.
Month from now?
Yes, it will.
Okay, thank you. That I'll wait. The second one is related to the assignments from slide 28. Is there any evidence that the assignments that are being given this year, because it seemed to be at all grades that the students were feeling that they had lots of assignments, or it seemingly sounded like more assignments. Is there any evidence at all that they're getting more assignments this year in distance than they were last year when it was live?
Melissa, are you okay if I grab that one? Okay. What we are hearing is that it's the combination of synchronous and asynchronous, not in comparison to last year, but given the fact that some of them are completing assignments when parents get home from work. So there's limited time to complete assignments, and it's all kind of compounded into those few hours that are left in the day. Does that help?
Yes, it does.
Anybody
else?
I appreciate it.
Anybody else want to work on that one from a high school or middle school level?
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to. I think, as we're growing and learning in distance learning, not only the learning part, but the teaching part of it, the aspect is we're hearing, from students that they're overwhelmed with the amount of work. But what we're hearing also on the other side is, there's a limited amount of time for instruction this year compared to what they usually would have. And so trying to meet the standards, get through the curriculum, students are feeling like it's piling up. So I think it's a mix of just being new and on one side of it, and then the teachers having worked towards their curriculum and trying to get through it is causing, some of this to come forward.
Okay. Let me move to my next question, and it's probably back to Amber Lee again. Amber Lee, you talked about materials pickup taking a life of its own, and can you expand a little bit of what you meant by that, and what's the lesson learned out of that, and what should we be doing different because of this lesson?
So I'm so glad you asked about materials pickup, because it is a bright spot in terms of life of its own. Initially, the intention of materials pickup was just to distribute materials and supplies that kids might need, whether it's packets or photocopies of things that they needed, or whether it was crayons and pencils and markers. The life of its own that it's taken on beyond that is really this connectivity piece, where kids are able to see one another, whether it's in cars and waving out windows as they drive by and pick up their materials, or shout from across the parking lot. That's really the life of its own. And I think lessons learned that you ask about that, the lesson learned is that sometimes the things that we don't expect show up, and we learn about that by talking to our families and communities and kids. And we now know that it's something that they love. And as Mrs. Costa had mentioned, it's something that the principals and the staff love too. They're all missing each other. And so the life of its own is really about that social emotional component. Thank
Okay.
you for asking.
Oh, yeah. Just so that Mr. Shumate doesn't feel left out, I wanted to talk a little bit about a couple of the questions related to middle school and assignments and grades. Yeah, I've heard more than once people say, well, middle school grades really don't matter because they're going to be let into high school regardless of how many F's or D's that they have. And it sounds like that issue is compounded even greater during our time of distance learning. Mr. Shumate, will you comment on that? And I hope you'll disagree with me.
Well, I really wish I could. I raced back to my middle school days, and I was a good student and a rule follower. And there was moments where I thought, this isn't going to be the end of the world if I don't get the A in this class or the B. And I think that same mentality has been compounded in this time period. And what has, I think, compounded it most is that interaction with the teacher, where the bell rings, the kid's leaving class, and the teacher says, "Hey, Jim, can I talk to you for a second?" And there's a connection that happens there. There's a little relational conversation that goes on, and there's a request from the teacher like, "Hey, I'm worried about you. You seem to be falling behind. What can I do to help you?" And that usually is enough to kind of snap that most kids into, okay, I got called on my behavior. I need to respond. Or there's a phone call home oftentimes too. And that's a lot harder to do in Zoom. We have started the little breakout rooms that I talked about where teachers are starting to have one-on-one conversations with kids, but it is a pervasive feeling at the middle schools, that it's something that we work daily to try to help kids understand that this is foundational learning and they need to get it right before they head to high school.
Okay, thanks. There's a lot of stuff there to work at, and this I want to thank all of you for the work that you did on this study. There's just a lot of data here that I could spend about a half hour doing of that sort of thing, but my fellow board members would kill me. And I want to move my next question. I want to be invited to one of the lunch bunches, either the one, Jim, that you talked about, where the 82 students, or I think it was talked about at other places too. But please put me on your invite list for those. Those sound like really terrific things for me to be a fly on the wall and listen to. And finally, I want to go to the grant, the W.E.S.T grant, and a couple of things. I'm very impressed with that, but I wanted to ask a couple of questions. We have either Mr. Hicks or Mr. In particular, we have other kinds of groups, for example, Project Optimism and Improve Your Tomorrow, that are also working with similar kinds of population. Is there any connection between the kinds of groups that have shown very promising results, just as this done, in terms of do you talk to each other? Do you work in league with each other? Is there any connection between you?
I feel like you were just like you were planted in my presentation. Oh, we're already partnering with them now. So yes, there's a huge connection. And
okay, that would make sense.
Yeah, we'll provide a satellite office though for them. But yeah, you're not a plant, but no, yes, we are. Yes, And I got my notepad too. I'm ready though, my brother. I'm ready for you.
Okay. While you're there, I want to ask the other thing. The grant that you have, you said it was from Sacramento Republic. How long is the grant? And because I saw it looked like it was a one year piece. And what are the and again, congratulations on the work you're doing. It is very impressive. Again, please invite me to come and see what you're doing, because this is really impressive stuff and so forth. And I've seen other things like the Improve Your Tomorrow and the Project Optimism, and you're all making an enormous difference. And even using the word scholars when you
Yes,
talk about those kids. That's a big deal.
it is a huge thing.
But tell me a little bit about the future of this grant and the future of this program.
Well, the grant, it's a one-time deal, but I'm kind of hoping the district we can go further beyond with this. So like I was saying before, we're just kind of planting the seeds though right now. So we're just kind of planning right now. So it's kind of where our community kind of really wants to go with this. I don't know if I'm answering your question.
Dr. McKibben, I can build off that as well. We had the opportunity to meet with Jamal. What was that? Last week, Jamal.
Yeah, last week, yes.
And we really just said, even with a significant amount of possible one-time funds that we were going to get, I said, Jamal, let's, as he said, start small, but let's start to envision how we can build this larger. And then I really see, as we've been talking about concentration dollars that we get or supplemental funds that we get, these are the kind of programs that we need to pilot. And then when we see them working, then that's where we invest our ongoing dollars in as well. And that was the kind of conversation we had with Jamal last week when we met with him, because, and the reason Ms. Costa didn't see this was, I think it was last Wednesday, I think that we met Jamal, Wednesday or Thursday. And we completely, I just said, we need to add this piece into the board presentation because it really puts into action what we were talking about. So I believe, like Jamal does it, this is just the start of this. And 3, 4, 5, 6 years down the road, who knows what it could really look like. We have to commit and support to it as a district.
I totally agree. And we'll talk tomorrow. Okay, those are my 6 questions. That's enough for me for tonight. This is great stuff.
Yes, it is.
Thank you, Dr. McKibben. I want to echo the thanks. I mean, the great part of this work, I think, as Superintendent Kern just kind of mentioned, ideally we're trying out and investing things that work, pandemic or no pandemic. I mean, a lot of the things in here do not require a global crisis to engage in, so that's the good news. And so look forward to hearing more about your success and what it would look like to continue these efforts. We've certainly got a lot of hard work ahead of us, so thankful to the whole team who is all in to make sure that we're meeting the challenges ahead of us. So thank you very much for the presentation to the whole team.